It's been a while since anyone's discussed pistols and secondary options inside Warzone, and I think it's really important after all these health changes, we figure out what kind of weapons we can use without using overkill. If you do enjoy this style of content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we try to reach our goal of 50k subscribers. Click that link and subscribe to our second channel. So of course we're going to back this up with some data as well. Now all these TTKs were taken from the mix shot location from sim.gg, and we have plugged it all into our spreadsheet here. But on top of that, I want to quickly mention this shot locations here. So we've got a 40% to the chest, 19 to stomach, 15 to head. Every other shot location is just going to land on extremities for the most part. That makes the most sense, of course, just because of obviously you're not going to be 100% accurate to hit the chest like all the time. But on top of that, this is based on a 1.2 KD player, so it's kind of like an average player for the most part, or slightly above average. So if you are in that 1.1, 1.2 KD, this is the kind of shot locations you should be expecting, and the kind of TTKs you should be expecting as well. Now, also we did exclude certain pistols that had an over 1000 millisecond TTK, because let's be honest, no one's going to use them, and it's mainly just single weapons. So most Akimbo guns actually have a pretty decent TTK, and it's probably the reason why you're seeing a lot of people run around with them right now. So let's arrange this in terms of TTKs right here. So we've got pretty much every single gun from Cold War, Modern Warfare, Vanguard, and we're mainly focusing on the close range because let's be honest, no pistol is going to be used at long range. And we're going to order it in terms of fastest possible TTK. And as you can see here, the Cold War Marshal in Akimbo is the fastest TTK at 121 milliseconds. This is at 300 HP, by the way. But let's keep in mind the Marshal only has 2 shots. So if you miss any of your shots, which you're most likely going to, and remember his buckshot is not actually one single bullet, then you are likely to not get this TTK, and you're more than likely to not get this TTK as well, because you're not necessarily landing 15% headshots with this gun. So that doesn't really make any sense, let's be honest. Now we've got the top break, which is very similar in my opinion to the Marshal. However, you actually get a lot more ammo, it fires a lot faster as well, so it's way more forgiving, and it does act as a shotgun pistol. So this one is definitely way more viable than the Marshal shotgun. So if you do like shotgun pistols, then the top break pistols will be the best option. Now we've got the Vanguard fully automatic barrel in Akimbo, and even though it does have a fast TTK, the kind of how fast the rate of fire is of this gun burns through the ammo super quick. So you can give it a go if you really want to, but in my opinion, it's not really all that valuable. Then we do have the Daimati pistol in Akimbo, which I do think is probably one of the best options available. Not only does it have a great damage per mag, especially with that 300 HP, on top of that, you are getting a super fast TTK, and the gun is very easy to use. So overall, very solid. Then we've got the Vanguard 1911 in Akimbo without the full auto barrel. That's actually not a bad option because you don't really burn through ammo nearly as quick, but you might as well go with the Daimatis because they are slightly better. Then we've got a lot of the Akimbo weapons here. So Akimbo weapons are always going to have a faster TTK because obviously you have no option to aim down sight. Now, let's take a look at some of our ADS options here. So we've got the Vanguard 1911 full auto, and again, I still think the rate of fire is way too quick with such a small mag. Then we've got the Rat pistol, which I do think is actually a solid pistol in this game. It's semi-automatic, so you do need to obviously have a good trigger finger, but you do get a solid TTK if you can get it consistently. So let's go over my 5 best secondary weapons, and starting off at number 1, we have the single Daimati build. Now, the single Daimati is still a solid gun. If you land a couple of headshots, you will get a slightly faster TTK. They did nerf this gun, so the TTK multiplier for the headshots wasn't insanely good, but it's still a very easy to use gun. Still got a pretty competitive TTK, and if you compare it to SMGs, it's actually still not too bad. So you can still win most of your gunfights with a single Daimati, which is pretty insane, all things considered. Now, you do want to use the agency suppressor, the task force barrel for the better strafing speeds, and bullet velocity and damage range. Now, it does increase the recoil a little, so if you are struggling with that, then you can even go for the chrome lined, which will give you the bullet velocity without the kind of recoil con. So that's another solid option there. Tiger Team Spotlight for better movement, but you can also go for the 5 milliwatt. Personally, I think the movement is a better bonus. Microflex LED, just to make sure you are landing those shots now, because you're not going to get that good multiplier unless you make sure you land those headshots. So obviously the Microflex will help out with that. And then the salvo 30 round fast mags, just to get the biggest mags available. At number 4, we have the Cold War AMP. Now, this is a gun that I like using quite a lot. You do get decent movement with this, and this is why I chose it over the Psychov. Even though the single Psychov has a faster TTK, you're still going to get a pretty decent movement speed with the AMP, so you need to make that trade-off in my opinion, otherwise you're just going to be moving way too slow with that 80 round drum mag. But overall, the build here is the agency suppressor for the recoil control and the damage range bonuses, task force barrel, but again, if you do struggle with the recoil, you can use the chrome line barrel as well to get the better bullet velocity. Then we are using the microflex LED again, because you do once again need to land a couple of headshots to get those TTKs that we showed in the spreadsheet. The salvo 30 round fast mags to reload quicker, get the biggest mags available, and the serpent wrap for the better ADS time. And overall, I think this is a solid gun to use. At number 3, we have the best semi-auto pistol that doesn't feel like you're going to burn through ammo super quick when you do use it, because the fire rate is pretty balanced and the TTKs are solid as well. And that is the rat pistol. The rat is solid. If you've picked it up with ground loot, you know what I'm talking about. But also the stats back it up too. So for a single weapon, the build you want to do is the M1 silencer, and that's going to give you the best possible recoil control. Then you want to use the Zac barrel, which is going to give you the fastest possible TTK because it does increase your damage. And it does con your damage range, but we're making up for that with the silencer anyway. Rapid action, trigger action, and that is so that you get the faster fire rate and the faster TTK, of course. The 20 round mags are going to give you the fastest possible TTK, but not only that, they are the biggest mags available, so you might as well go for them. Then we're using lengthened. You can choose hollow point, will make your TTKs a bit more consistent if you really want to go for it. Both that and lengthened are solid options here. Stipple grip tape, because the recoil recovery and initial firing recoil is more important on a semi-auto gun than something like the sustained fire, because that's more important on fully automatic weapons. Then we're using Perfectionist for the extra recoil control. Now, if you feel that you can still control the recoil of this weapon and it's only close range, you could choose something else, but I do think Perfectionist is needed here. On hand for the better ADS time, and you can also use Quick as well, but the reason I used on hand is because the silencer will con your ADS a little bit, so we're trying to make up for that. The next one is for all of our shotgun lovers out there. Now, this is probably better in terms of TTK than most shotguns in the game. Not only that, it is a secondary weapon, so it's a pocket shotgun essentially. So the build for this in Akimbo, of course, is the flash hider. Now, you can use the F8 stabilizer or the silencer, but this is going to con your sprint to fire. The stabilizer cons your hip fire, and this is the only one that doesn't really con anything that's too important. So that's why I went for the recoil control on the flash hider. The stub, or you could choose no barrel, but you want obviously the extra damage range and bullet velocity, so you will get the benefit out of that. The Wilkie barrel actually cons your body damage, so you don't really want that. Then we've got the G16 optic on here. Now, it does say it helps with accuracy, but I don't know if it does or doesn't, so you might as well put it on there because it helps with recoil and accuracy. Rapid action barrel is going to help with the fire rate and obviously therefore your TTKs. The Russian short mags are actually the best, even though it cons your fire rate, it's going to give you that extra damage you need to get the better TTKs. And then we've got the shot shell, which you definitely need here. This is what's going to make it feel like an actual shotgun pistol. Then we've got the fabric grip, which helps to sprint to fire and hip fire. The bonus to ADS doesn't really do anything, obviously, because we're running these weapons in Akimbo. But like I said, it's very important that we get a good hip fire accuracy and a good sprint to fire speed. So like I said, fabric grips could be the best option here. Akimbo, obviously, because we are running this in Akimbo. And then Perk 2 Quick is probably the only one we can use here to actually make this gun feel a lot snappier when moving around. Last but not least, at number 1, we have the Akimbo Daimati pistol from Cold War. And as you've seen, it's got one of the fastest TTKs, but not only that, is one of the easiest guns to use for most people. The build obviously does change slightly from the single build. So as you can see here, we're using the muzzle brake, and that's because the silencer is not really going to make too much of a difference, especially if you're going to be right up in the person's face, which is what you're going to have to do with an Akimbo weapon like this. You can go for a silencer if you really want to help control the recoil, which might help your hip fire a little bit as well. But overall, I feel like the muzzle brake is enough to control the recoil of this weapon. You don't really need the silencer there. Task Force Barrel is going to help with the strafing speeds. Even whilst you're firing, this is still really important. The recoil control thing isn't really too important because, again, you're going to be in point blank range, so you don't really need to worry about that too much. 5mm laser for the better hip fire accuracy, which is obviously very important. And the aim down sight con doesn't really matter here because we're running this in Akimbo. And then we've got the 30 round fast mags once again, just to have the largest mags available to us. And overall, this is going to be the easiest to use secondary weapon if you're trying to get a super fast TTK as well. So there we have it. Those are the 5 best secondary pistols to use inside Warzone at the moment. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe as we try to reach our goal of 50k, and click that link and subscribe to our second channel. Thank you very much for watching.